Part 49. Blessed to have each other in this life, Mu Shao, your wife is born again. Author, Hua Hua Liao. Chapter 481. Mu Zhenning was really grateful to Qiao Jingjie. When a man was most helpless and embarrassing, it was Qiao Jingjie who extended a helping hand to him. Not only did she help him without hesitation, she also cooperated with him in keeping secrets from his wife so that he wouldn't fall into an embarrassing situation. For a woman to make such a big sacrifice, Mu Zhenning was moved, so he would ask Qiao Jingjie for anything. But now, he was really tired of Qiao Jingjie. Qiao Jingjie, I really don't understand, Mu Zhenning asked her. You don't need to pay off the house or the car loan. Where's your money? I just gave you 3 million not long ago. But tell me you have no money. Qiao Jingjie hesitated and couldn't answer. She couldn't explain it. Money is needed to enter and exit high-end clubs, money is needed to customize dresses, money is needed to buy jewelry, socializing with ladies and wives at charity auctions, money is needed to spend a lot of money, money is needed to buy calligraphy and paintings of celebrities and give them to Mayor Joe. To please him and be filial to him needs money. Buying the servants of Mu's family also needs money. Money is needed everywhere. How can a mere 3 million yuan stand up to her expenses? Mu Zhenning didn't get the answer, and he didn't force it. He wasn't interested in where Qiao Jingjie spent the money, so he asked, what do you think is the cause of Su Ziyi's death? Who is looking into it? Qiao Jingjie was eager to please him, and immediately replied, it's Mu Ziyi. Mu Ziyi is investigating Su Ziyi's death. Mu Ziyi, Mu Zhenning was stunned. Why did Mu Ziyi investigate Su Ziyi's affairs? What's the relationship between her and Su Ziyi? I also find it strange that she and Sister Su don't know each other at all, so why would she care about Sister Su's affairs? I'm afraid someone is instigating her behind the scenes. In order to regain Mu Zhenning's trust, Qiao Jingjie almost knew everything and said everything. Zhenning, I suspect that Zhang Xi is behind the scenes. She and Mu Ziyi got very close. She must have let Mu Ziyi do this. Oh my god, it's terrible. What is this woman trying to do? Mu Ziyi also said that she knew about my asking Sister Su to go to the bow of the boat. I obviously only told Sister Su about this matter. How could Mu Ziyi know? Could there be a bug installed on the boat? Zhenning, you have to be careful, that yacht be sure to check, maybe someone tampered with it. The words were full of care and concern for Mu Zhenning. She hoped that after this incident, Mu Zhenning could remember their past friendship. At that time, Mu Zhenning would never tell Su Ziyi about his depression, but confided to Qiao Jingjie. Although they are not husband and wife, they are closer than husband and wife. But it was strange that there was no sound from the other end of the phone. Zhenning, Qiao Jingjie called softly. Mu Zhenning woke up as if from a dream. You just said, you only said to Su Ziyi, but Mu Ziyi knew about it. Well, I suspect that someone installed a bug. Zhenning, what's wrong with you? Qiao Jingjie was puzzled, feeling that Mu Zhenning's reaction was wrong. She went on to say, Mu Ziyi was obviously not on the boat that day, but it's really strange, she seems to know everything about what happened on the boat, she even knows about my drugging Sister Su's wine, now she seems to suspect that Sister Su's death is unusual. After Mu Zhenning finished listening, he was silent for a long time. Until Qiao Jingjie asked again, Mu Zhenning said, I will transfer the money to your account, so don't contact me again. After all, hang up the phone. He sat in the room, his chest was suffocated, as if something was pressing on his chest and lungs, preventing him from breathing smoothly. Subconsciously took out the cigarette case, trying to numb the disorder in my heart at this moment with cigarettes, but found that the cigarette case was empty. Mu Zhenning walked out of the room, his hurried steps brought out a sense of panic for some reason. When I ran into Mu Rongxian and the sorcerer he invited, the sorcerer said, the tree behind must find a way to dispose of it, otherwise it will form a place for gathering yin and nourishing the soul, causing ghosts to breed, and people with bad luck will come. How can you not be unlucky if you enter such a place full of yin energy? Blessed to have each other in this life, Shao, your wife is born again. Author, Hua Liao. Chapter 482. Zhenning looked like an idiot, standing still in place, staring blankly at the sorcerer. What is ghost breeding? He asked. The mage was stunned for a moment, and replied, the 5-yin tree in the back garden is in a tricky position, as if someone was raising yin and evil things on purpose. Rongxian next to him hurriedly said, no, that's my young brother who only planted it for freshness. How could there be evil in our family? Master, how do you think it's better to deal with it? Can you help us get rid of it? This formation is the kind of feng shui formation that ensures safety and seeks blessings. No matter what kind of feng shui formation, those few trees must be disposed of, otherwise it will be difficult to use it, the mage said. Rongxian nodded, I'll ask someone to cut down the tree in a while. Cut what? Zhenning suddenly became angry for some reason, and shouted sharply, it's all nonsense. What ghosts, what evils? It's all nonsense. Zhenning has always been gentle and kind. When he was a child, he was a shy and handsome boy. When he grows up, he is a restrained and handsome man. He is used to hiding everything in his heart, so he has almost no temper. A person without temper suddenly became angry, and Rongxian was stunned immediately, unable to recover for a while. Zhenning, are you all right? Rongxian asked him concerned, wondering if Zhenning had been stimulated outside. In Zhenning's eyes, there was a thick haze that couldn't be melted away. He looked gloomy, looked at people with hatred, and said each word, there is no evil here, and there is no need to cut down trees. Please come back, mage. The mage often went in and out of big families and was respected by others, so he was also somewhat arrogant. After being treated like this by Zhenning, his face immediately darkened, and he shook his sleeves and left. Hey! Mage, Xiaozhang, hurry up and see off the guests. Rongxian hurriedly called a servant to see off the guests, turned his head to look at Zhenning, and sighed, Zhenning, what are you doing today? Already? The mage I specially invited from Yuking Temple. Before he finished speaking, Zhenning's gloomy eyes touched Zhenning's eyes, and Rongxian couldn't help but shut up, looking at him in bewilderment. Zhenning's whole portrait was covered with frost, his thin lips were tightly pursed into a line, his eyes were deep, cold, and ferocious. Without saying a word, he hurried downstairs. The sound of footsteps echoing on the stairs was fast and heavy, resolute without hesitation. Zhenning went to Xiaoanglu. Zi was studying. When he heard the sound of footsteps, he felt strange and thought, why did Rongcheng come back so early today? As soon as she turned her head, she saw Zhenning standing at the door of her room. Zi frowned slightly, and looked at Zhenning coldly. Zhenning also looked at her, with restrained anger in his eyes. Come out, his voice was extremely low, like a layer of dark clouds, something, I think we need to talk about it. Zi stared at him vigilantly. Zhenning looked a little strange today. Zi didn't want to go out with him. Just about to refuse, Zhenning said in a cold tone, or, we can also talk here, talk about how you changed from Suzi to Zi. Zi was shocked. As if suddenly being hit with a hammer, his head buzzed and went blank for a moment. But slowly, when she came back to her senses, she felt that it would be a matter of time. Others may be able to hide it for a lifetime, but Zhenning was her husband and the most familiar pillow person. How could she hide it for a lifetime? Zi regained her composure. Sooner or later you have to face it, and sooner or later you have to solve it. Let's go out and talk. She stood up and walked out of the room. She didn't want to make a big deal out of it, and she didn't want to quarrel with Mu Zening here. Any word or phrase would be a disaster if people overheard it. They went downstairs one after the other. Bai Wei in the living room glanced this way when she heard the sound, and looked a little confused when she saw them. Bai Wei was about to ask, when Mu Zi smiled at her with her small face up. Bai Wei also smiled and didn't ask where they were going. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Blessed to have each other in this life, Mu Shao, your wife is born again. Author, Hua Liao. Chapter 483. It is dusk at this time, and the beautiful sunset glow shines on the cobblestone paths in the garden, reflecting colorful light, melting into the fresh green in early spring, embellishing fresh and wonderful colors. Mu Zi's heart is heavy. She silently followed behind Mu Zening, thinking all the way, how to tell him all this. How much does he know? What does he want to do? They came to the garage, where there is no one on weekdays, quiet and remote, suitable for conversation. Tell me, Mu Zi said indifferently, what do you want to talk to me about? But Mu Zening opened the car door and said to Mu Zi, get in the car. Mu Zi frowned. She didn't want to go out with Mu Zening. To be precise, she wanted to keep a distance from him. Once she got in the car, it meant that he had mastered the sovereignty and could take her anywhere, so Mu Zi was afraid. Mu Zening sat straight in, and started the car engine expressionlessly. Mu Zi hesitated a little, and also sat in. The car drove very fast, and Mu Zening was galloping almost all the way through the streets, not knowing where he was going. Where are you taking me? Mu Zi asked coldly, with obvious sullenness on his face. Mu Zening didn't say a word, holding the steering wheel silently, his whole body was gloomy and gloomy, like a statue. Mu Zi couldn't find the result, so she stopped asking. She turned her head to look at the rapidly receding scenery outside the car window, feeling cold in her heart. Getting to this point with Mu Zening made her feel unpredictable, sad, and ridiculous. The car drove all the way to the river embankment. Below the embankment is the Qingjiang River, which is coated with a layer of magnificent golden light by the setting sun. The river is rushing, beating waves, and the damp and cold water vapor fills the surrounding air. Mu Zening held the steering wheel tightly and didn't speak for a long while. Mu Zi was also silent. She has nothing to say. After an unknown amount of time, she heard Mu Zening ask, why? These three words seemed to come directly from his heart, suppressing anger and pain. Mu Zi didn't know how to answer. Why? Why did you die? Or why live? Or why hide your identity and not recognize him? She really doesn't know what to say. Suzy Mu Zening called her name, eyes filled with intense pain. Why him? Suzy, do you still remember that I am your husband? I am your husband. These words were like a wake-up call, hitting Mu Zi's heart hard. No, Mu Zi lowered her eyes, you are not. Suzy is already dead. Mu Zening's wife is written on the tombstone. Even if she dies, she will still be my wife. Mu Zening suddenly changed color and grabbed Mu Zi's arm. Even if you deny it, it won't change the fact. Suzy, why are you doing this to me? He was emotionally agitated, and he used a lot of strength, which made Mu Zi hurt. What should I do to you? Mu Zi endured the pain, and looked at him indifferently. I will happily tell you that I am alive, and then I will watch you embrace you, enjoying the blessing of being equal to everyone. Mu Zening was even angrier, and his voice was stern. You clearly already know that Jiao Jingjia and I have nothing to do with each other. What do you mean it's okay? Mu Zi sneered. In your opinion, as long as the reason is justified, no matter what happens, it can be understood. Can it be interpreted as okay? Mu Zening, you kissed her, touched her. How to do it, is it relevant? Then what about you and Murong Chang? How do you explain it? Mu Zhening's words were chilled to the bone, and he said every word clearly, you two really make me feel sick. Blessed to have each other in this life, Mu Shao, your wife is born again. Author, Hua Liao. Chapter 484. Mu Zi's face turned pale for a moment. Nausea. Of course she knew what Mu Zhening was referring to. She and Murong Chang used to be uncles and sisters-in-law, and then brother and sister. No matter what kind of relationship, it is an embarrassing situation. And it is an indisputable fact that she empathizes with others. Mu Zi clenched her hands into fists, took a deep breath slowly, and sneered, why, you and Xiao Jingjia have been fighting each other, and now you are counting on a dead person to keep the festival for you. I didn't, Mu Zhening said in pain, Suzy I love you. You betrayed me. Mu Zi remained unmoved, and replied indifferently, don't say you love me again, if your love is after I die, take my insurance money, and kiss me with other women. I would rather not have been loved by you. Mu Zhening, if you are not loyal, don't let me abide by the loyalty of marriage. From the moment you abandoned me at the bottom of the river, our marriage has terminated. I thought you were washed away by the river, Mu Zhening explained eagerly, I sent many people to look for you downstream. But they couldn't find you. What happened after that? Mu Zi looked sideways out of the car window, her eyes were cold. What did you do after that? You listened to Xiao Jingjia's words, thought I committed suicide, and then took the insurance money to live your happy life with peace of mind. My life or death? Have you ever thought about my feelings? No, you didn't do anything, maybe my death is what you expected. Mu Zhening felt as if struck by lightning, his thoughts froze for an instant. How could I expect you to die? Mu Zhening murmured in disbelief, could it be, do you think I killed you? Mu Zi was silent. The human mind is the most complex and unpredictable. Under pressure, it is normal to have any extreme thoughts. Losing an indifferent wife and gaining an emergency fortune, maybe this idea only exists in the brain for a short moment, just a moment, is enough to shake people's hearts. She doesn't want to quarrel with Mu Zhening on this topic now, the matter has come to this point, and it is meaningless to delve into it further. Go back, Mu Zi whispered. It's true that I asked Xiao Jingjia to put medicine in your wine, but that medicine is harmless to your body. It will never hurt you, let alone kill you. Mu Zhening was emotional, and his chest heaved violently. At this moment, he vented all the anger he had accumulated for a long time. We've been married for a year. Have you considered my feelings? Whenever we lie on the same bed at night, I will be very scared, afraid that you will ask me why I won't touch you, and that you will think I can't do it. But, you really didn't ask, never once, Suzy is your heart made of stone? I thought I've covered you for 4 years, it's time to cover you, but how did you treat me? Is love worthless in your eyes? Mu Zi was a little sad. In this marriage, both she and Mu Zhening became complete losers. Mu Zhening was ambiguous with Xiao Jingjia during their marriage. Although she was wrong, she never put her heart into her marriage, and she was not innocent. Both of them are responsible for getting to this point. Mu Zhening, we can't go back. Mu Zi sighed. Mu Zhening sneered coldly, why can't you go back? Is it because of Murong Chang? You can think whatever you want. Mu Zi opened the car door, turned and left. Mu Zhening chased her out and shouted angrily at her, why didn't you dare to answer? You fell in love with him. Suzy you will always be like this. You don't love him, you just love he loves you. You are the most ruthless person. The cold wind on the river embankment messed up Mu Zi's long hair, she held her thick black hair with her hands, and walked forward step by step. Mu Zhening watched her leave heartlessly, couldn't stand it anymore, hit his fist on the car, and screamed in pain, what about me? What did I do wrong? What did I do wrong? Blessed to have each other in this life, Shao, your wife is born again. Author, Hua Liao. Chapter 485. The wind on the river embankment was very strong, blowing on Muzi in waves. Muzi felt cold on her body, and her heart was also cold, as if a big hole had been opened, and the cold current poured directly into her heart, which could freeze her whole heart. After walking along the embankment for nearly half an hour, she finally got a taxi. When she got home, Bai Wei had already prepared meals. "Why do you look so pale?" Bai Wei set the table and chopsticks, looked up to see her daughter's pale face, and immediately walked over to hold Muzi's hand. "Hands are so cold. The flowers are blooming in spring, my third brother and I went for a stroll outside," Muzi said perfunctorily. "You guys are too careless. The cold spring has not passed yet. At this time, typhoid fever is the most likely to catch a cold." Bai Wei frowned, sighed, and hurried to the kitchen. "I'll make you a bowl of ginger soup." "Okay," Muzi smiled, very well behaved. She didn't want Bai Wei to worry. Bai Wei quickly cooked the ginger soup and brought it for Muzi to drink while it was hot, so as to drive away the cold. The ginger soup is thickly boiled, and red dates are added. When it flows from the tip of the tongue, it has a strong spicy feeling, and there are a few hints of sweetness of red dates. Muzi took small sips and somehow remembered the bowl of ginger soup that Murong Chang cooked for her. Very sweet. Very warm. Her heart, which was frozen to the core on the embankment, seemed to be slowly warming up. She told herself in her heart that there was no need to feel guilty. It was Muzening who cheated first, their marriage existed in name only. Even if she fell in love with someone else, it was not immoral. What's more, Murong Chang paid more. In order to repay Murong Chang, she was unethical once in a while, and she also admitted it. Muzi is very clear in her heart. Rebirth is like picking up a life for nothing. She should cherish it, and shouldn't bind herself to the past relationship. After trying to understand this point, Muzi's mood improved slightly. There is still some sadness, but not so depressed. That night, Murong Chang did not come back. Waking up in the morning, seeing the empty place next to the bed, Muzi was stunned for a moment. Once upon a time, she was terrified every night, closing the windows and locking the door, lest the man break in the middle of the night. However, she didn't know when she got used to his breath, leaned against his chest, and when she realized that he hadn't come back, she felt a little sad in her heart. It's like a wife who stays at home alone and sleepless. Even though she was married to Muzening, she never felt like this. At that time, I just felt that my age was up, and my grandmother's health was getting worse day by day. The only wish of the old man was to see his granddaughter get married and have children, so that he could rely on him on the road of life. She herself didn't dislike Muzening, and she got along happily and relaxedly, so she naturally started talking about marriage. Everything is a matter of course. The days after marriage are flat and warm, without suspense, turmoil, or passion, but isn't that how life is? Daily necessities, rice, oil, and salt, parents are short-lived. Some people can make the days sweeter and sweeter in the years, and some people can make the days more dull. She thinks she should be the latter. Sure enough, or because you don't love him. Because she didn't love, she didn't want to bother to maintain and manage it. Even if the marriage fell apart, she didn't even notice it. In fact, what Muzening said is right, she is the most ruthless. It was precisely because of the ruthlessness that when she found out that Muzening and Xiao Jingjia were struggling, she would be angry, but she would not be sad. Muzi had some dark thoughts in her heart. Maybe this is better, and it can relieve my guilt a lot. Isn't it, a little mean? Muzi got up to take a shower. Her mind was full of miscellaneous thoughts. She picked up her schoolbag and prepared to go to school, but found that Mu Zhenning was leaning against the outer wall of the small Western-style building, with many cigarette butts scattered under his feet, as if he had been waiting here for a long time. "I'll take you to school." Mu Zhenning's voice was hoarse, his eyes were bruised, and he stayed up all night. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Blessed to have each other in this life, Mu Shao, your wife is born again. Author, Hua Liao. Chapter 486. Mu Zi looked at him warily. Mu Zhenning threw away the cigarette butt in his hand, rubbed it with his toes, and said in a calm tone, "Don't worry, I won't do anything to you. After all, you are my sister in name now, aren't you?" Mu Zi pursed her lips and did not speak. Living in the same family is inevitable, no matter how unwilling you are to face it. Some things will have to be clarified sooner or later. Mu Zi got into Mu Zhenning's car. She knew that sending her to school was just an excuse, and Mu Zhenning probably wanted to say something to her. Neither of them were calm enough yesterday. Mu Zhenning started the car and sent Mu Zi to school. All the way silent. At a red light at the intersection, the car came to a slow stop. Mu Zhenning seemed to have prepared his emotions, and said, "I was too impulsive yesterday, and I apologize to you. At that time, you suddenly had an accident, and I was very confused." Xiao Jingjia was afraid of taking responsibility, so she lied to the police. "I also have my own concerns. I am worried that the composition of the medicine will be found in the corpse, and I will not be able to explain it at that time, but I will never leave you alone. I hired many boats to look for you in several places downstream, but I have never found it." Mu Zi sat quietly in the back seat with her school bag in her arms. Mu Zhenning glanced at her from the rearview mirror, then returned to the front of the car. He also knew that it was too late to say something now. "What are your plans in the future?" Mu Zhenning asked her. Mu Zi raised her eyes. The light in her eyes was as clear as a spring, calm and emotionless. "Live well," she said. When Mu Zhenning heard this, his heart ached. If you die once and get back alive, of course you have to live well. The red light turned green, and the stationary traffic at the intersection started to move slowly. Mu Zhenning continued to drive while holding the steering wheel. "I heard that you are investigating the cause of your death," Mu Zhenning whispered while driving. The corners of Mu Zi's lips were slightly raised, and a trace of sarcasm flashed in his eyes. "Did you hear what Xiao Jingjia said?" Mu Zhenning's expression was slightly stagnant, with gloom appearing between his brows. "Yes," he nodded slightly. "Xiao Jingjia and I are both responsible for your death. I will not shirk this point. After all, it happened on the yacht I arranged. I will do my best to cooperate with you if you need anything." It was related to the cause of his death. Mu Zi stopped sneering at him, and said lightly, "Thank you, but I think there is no need to investigate further. Judging from the existing clues, it should be an accidental death caused by a drug reaction. I think it is also clear that some people are prone to allergies, and even taking safe drugs will have strong side effects. Maybe I am just so unlucky. I have dizziness and hallucinations, and finally stumbled and fell." Mu Zhenning's breathing was constricted, and his mouth was full of bitterness. According to Mu Zi, her death was caused by him and Xiao Jingjia. If she hadn't drank the glass of rigged wine, she wouldn't have been dizzy and fell off the boat. If she hadn't gone to the bow alone, at least someone would have stretched out her hand to hold her when something happened. Mu Zhenning breathed slowly. Every breath of air he inhaled was like a ball of fire, burning his lungs and causing pain to the core. "Tell me about you and Murong Cheng." He gripped the steering wheel tightly, staring at the road ahead. Murong Cheng set up a feng shui array of huiyan trees at home. It's definitely not a coincidence. Don't you think he has ulterior motives? Otherwise, why would you engage in these crooked ways after you die? You don't need to sow discord. Mu Zi's eyes were cold. You don't use any dirty associations. I can tell you that before I died, Murong Cheng and I were innocent and did not do anything wrong to you. As for after I die, I think the matter between me and him should have nothing to do with you. Blessed to have each other in this life, Mu Shao, your wife is born again. Author, Hua Liao. Chapter 487. Mu Zi's words blocked all of Mu Zenning's escape routes. People often say that the longest distance is the distance between life and death. At this moment, Mu Zenning suddenly had a new understanding of this sentence. She said that after her death, she had nothing to do with him. The love he had poured into for many years, and the marriage he had worked so hard to maintain, were all forced to end on the day Su Zi died. The car drives to school. Before getting off the car, Mu Zi said to Mu Zenning, "You have to understand, whether you accept it or not, we can't go back to the past. Even if we take 10,000 steps back, I didn't die on the day of the accident, and I didn't die. Perhaps accepting the entanglements between you and Xiao Jingjia, it will be a matter of time before we part ways, not to mention that I am no longer Su Zi. Mu Zenning, as long as you and I take a step back, we can live well. There is really no need to torture each other. Let's get together and break up." After she finished speaking, she picked up her school bag and got out of the car as usual, and walked into the school gate with other students as usual, without any hesitation in her steps. Mu Zi also felt that she was ruthless, but she also thought that this ruthlessness was beneficial to both her and Mu Zenning. She needs a new life, and Mu Zenning also needs it. To dwell on those things in the past is tantamount to self-torture. She didn't want to punish Mu Zenning's betrayal, and she didn't bother to accept Mu Zenning's affection. After returning to school, Mu Zi concentrated on listening to the class and didn't think about Mu Zenning anymore. The next day was Mu Zi's 17th birthday. Unfortunately, Bai Wei fell ill. She struggled to get up and wanted to make a bowl of longevity noodles for her daughter, but she didn't have the strength to do so. Mu Zi saw that something was wrong with Bai Wei, stared at her red face suspiciously, and asked, "Mom, do you have a fever?" "Ah, is there?" Bai Wei felt dazed, touched her forehead, got a face of white flour, and was a little confused. Mu Zi pulled Bai Wei out of the kitchen, let her sit on the sofa, and took her body temperature carefully. "Mom, you just have a fever." Mu Zi looked at the electronic thermometer and frowned. "Why don't I ask for leave today and stay at home to take care of you?" "It's okay, just take some antipyretics and sleep and you'll be fine." Bai Wei felt that it was a trivial matter, and it couldn't affect her daughter's study, but she felt guilty when she remembered that her daughter didn't have to eat longevity noodles or breakfast. "Otherwise, Mommy will go to the big kitchen and ask someone to make some breakfast for you," Bai Wei asked. "There's still bread at home, so I'll just eat some." Mu Zi rummaged through the medicine cabinet, found antipyretics, and poured another glass of water for Bai Wei. Bai Wei felt happy, and said with a smile, "My daughters are all sweet little padded jackets." Mu Zi also laughed, feeling that Bai Wei was easy to be content. When Bai Wei went upstairs to rest, Mu Zi called Murong Cheng and told him that Bai Wei was sick. "I've taken antipyretics, but I'm still a little worried. Can you come back now? I'm going to school soon, and I'm afraid no one will take care of Mom at home." Murong Cheng said he would be right back. Mu Zi hung up the phone, looked at the wall clock on the wall, silently counting the time, thinking, it shouldn't matter if she skipped the morning self-study. While waiting for Murong Cheng to come back, she washed and changed her clothes, changed the water for the snake house, added food to the bird food box, and chattered for a while. Later, she heard footsteps in the hallway, looked back, and saw Murong Cheng's tall figure standing in the backlight, the golden morning light shining on his outline, making his handsome face look extraordinarily gentle. Although it was only a few days since we saw each other, Mu Zi felt as if he was in a dream. "You're back," she smiled and bent her eyebrows, like a wife. Blessed to have each other in this life, Shao, your wife is born again. Author, Hua Liao. Chapter 488. Cheng's footsteps paused slightly, then his thin lips slightly curled up, and he bowed his head to kiss her lightly on the forehead. Is Mom all right? He asked. The temperature is a bit high, I took antipyretics, I don't know if I can subside later. I told him carefully. Cheng went upstairs to see Bai Wei, and then went downstairs, seeing I carrying his school bag and preparing to go to school, he suddenly remembered something. Today seems to be your birthday. Yeah, I nodded. Mom originally wanted to make longevity noodles, but she got sick, but 17 isn't her birthday, so it doesn't really matter if you pass it? I didn't care about this. Cheng thought about it, but said, let's go to school later. He has been busy recently, it is rare to come back in the morning, and he will go out later in the evening. Now that he is back, he simply celebrates I's birthday. Cheng went to the kitchen, washed his hands, and continued kneading the noodles that Bai Wei made just now. I leaned against the door frame of the kitchen to look at him, her gaze fell softly on Cheng. Will you? She asked, with a playful smile in her eyes and some anticipation. Yes, Cheng said. I couldn't help laughing. Yes, 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 no, no, what do you mean yes? She seriously doubted the quality of the longevity noodles made by Cheng. Cheng looked back at her, pinched her nose with one free hand, pinched the white flour in his nose. What do you do with so many questions? You just need to eat? It's really domineering. I rubbed her nose and muttered, but there was a smile in her eyes that couldn't be concealed. After Cheng kneaded the noodles, he started to make noodles. He wanted to make a thin and long strand of noodles like Bai Wei's, but he was not successful. He tried a few times, and finally managed to make a thick noodle. The soup used for the noodles below is the chicken soup that Bai Wei prepared the night before, with a little salt. The taste is very delicious. Cheng brought the noodles in front of I. If you have eaten birthday noodles, you will be 17 years old. Then he touched her head again, and said meaningfully, there is 1 year left. Rogue virtue. I scolded him, but couldn't help smiling. She picked up her chopsticks to eat noodles, and Cheng also took a pair of chopsticks, reaching into the bowl to pick and choose. He picked up one end of the noodles and fed it into Muse's mouth, then found out the other end of the noodles himself, and said seriously, we both eat one side. If we don't tie knots, it means that the rest of our lives will be smooth and happy. I've never heard of such a statement. You made it up yourself. I disliked it. Can you stop being so childish? Cheng said, it just so happens that I didn't have breakfast. He has always been used to being a rascal. I felt embarrassed, so he had to eat noodles according to his method. Afterwards, there was no knot. Cheng was very happy, and at the end of the meal, he pecked her lips vigorously. It smelled delicious of chicken soup. It tastes good, he said. I looked at the complacency on his face. Her heart was sweet and warm, and she felt that this moment was extremely beautiful. Looking at Cheng's appearance, it must be because he didn't know that Musening had looked for her. After all, when lions doze off, Cheng is busy, and it is impossible to watch the surveillance 24 hours a day. Fair enough. Anyway, what should be said, she has already made it clear to Musening, there is no need to make any further disturbances because of this incident. And, she was really terrified that Cheng would kill him if he disagreed with him. After eating longevity noodles, I went to school. Cheng couldn't bear her, so he put his arms around her and kissed her again and again at the porch. Why don't you ask for leave and stay at home with me to take care of Mom? You just want to take advantage of me not being fooled. I pierced his dirty mind, and then warned, take Mom's temperature again in 4 hours, and the antipyretics are by the bed. After she finished explaining, she went out to go to school. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Blessed to have each other in this life, Shao, your wife is born again. Author, HandsomeMaleLead. Chapter 489. Because of the bowl of noodles in the morning, Muzi was late for more than an hour. She has good grades, studies hard, and is a top student in the eyes of the teachers, so the teachers did not blame her. It was only in the afternoon that Muzi started to have a low fever. I don't know if it was infected by byway, or the typhoid fever was caused by the cold wind blowing on the river embankment yesterday. She went to the school infirmary, asked the school doctor to get some antipyretics, and insisted on finishing the afternoon class. The last class in the afternoon was self-study. Both Zhang Xinyuan and Zhuangjia were worried about her and told her to go home first. If she didn't attend the self-study class, she wouldn't be counted as absent. Muzi touched her forehead and felt that the temperature not only didn't drop much, but became hotter. She nodded drowsily, packed her school bag and went home. When I walked to the school gate, I suddenly remembered that the driver at home would not come to pick her up until after school. There are still 20 minutes before school ends. Whether it is long or short, Muzi is hesitant whether to wait for the driver to come, or to take a taxi home by himself. At this time, a young man stepped down from a car parked on the side of the road ahead. This person actually knew her, walked over directly, and said respectfully, "Miss Mu, my young master treats you to dinner, and I want to talk to you a few words." Muzi had a low-grade fever. She looked sober, but her mind was already a little confused. She subconsciously thought that it was Mu Zhenning who came to pester her again, because it was inconvenient to talk at home, so she made an appointment outside. Well, good or bad, let's talk to him one last time. Muzi got into the car. The car drove for a while, but Muzi faintly felt that something was wrong. Mu Zhenning wanted to talk to her, so why not go to her directly? Why send another person to deliver the message? Who is your young master? Muzi asked the man sitting in front. The man smiled and replied, "My young master's surname is Gu." Oh, so it was young master Gu. Muzi's head was dizzy and his thoughts were chaotic. She thought about it for a while, but still felt something was wrong. If it was Gu Liang who asked him out, why didn't he ask Tong Guan to call in advance to ask if she was free, instead of waiting at the school gate? He obviously knew her phone number. Also, the car is not right. The car Gu Liang sent to pick him up must be a luxury car. How could it be so ordinary? Muzi was originally very shrewd, but now her head is dizzy and uncomfortable. She thinks about it, and feels that something is wrong, but she can't think of a reason. Out of the instinct of self-preservation, she reached into her school bag, quietly took out the gun in the school bag, and pinned the gun to her waist under the cover of her coat. It's been a cold spring recently, and she's wearing a thick coat with a gun hidden in it, which can't be seen from the outside at all. After doing this, Muzi kept looking out of the car window, trying to remember the route of the car. But the other party didn't seem to be afraid of being known by her, and there was no change along the way. The car drove to the entrance of a hotel, and the man asked Muzi to get off, still respectfully. Muzi was even more suspicious, thinking, did she guess wrong? Was it really young Master Gu who invited her? Confused by this point, Muzi followed the man into the hotel and came to the door of a room. The man smiled and said, "My young master is inside, Miss Mu, please." Muzi raised her eyes and saw a strange gleam flashing in his eyes. It was the joy and excitement that the plot was about to succeed. This matter is really not easy. Muzi's heart sank. For the time being, she still can't think of who is going to deal with her and what is the purpose of bringing her here. However, the gun at her waist gave her confidence, and if she had an attack now, she might not be able to know the conspiracy behind it. Muzi held down the gun at his waist without making a fuss, and stretched out his hand to open the door. Blessed to have each other in this life, Shao, your wife is born again. Author, Hua Liao. Chapter 490. Inside is a presidential suite. The presidential suite is a luxury room set up in a high-star hotel. It is usually expensive and equipped with top-level equipment. It not only includes a living room and bedroom, but also a special leisure and entertainment hall and a meeting room. Because of this, the area Muzi can see after entering is limited, and she cannot be sure whether there are people in other rooms. If you are not sure, you cannot judge. If you cannot judge, you will hesitate. The man behind her seemed very considerate, took the skull bag from her hand, hung it on the floor hanger beside her, and poured her another cup of tea. Just a moment, please, he said. So far, Muzi has not noticed any hostility from the other party. She sat on the sofa and waited quietly. The tea on the coffee table remained unchanged. Although this matter was strange, she still hoped that she was too sensitive. Maybe someone really wanted to see her? The man walked into the inner room, came out after a while, and said with a smile, "Miss Mu, my young master invites you in. If you really want to talk about things, it seems reasonable to go into the living room inside." Muzi got up and walked in. However, the moment she walked into the room, a sudden change occurred. That man who was always respectful and kind suddenly closed the door. Urgent and fast, and quickly locked with a key. Muzi stared blankly at the locked door, her feverish head sluggishly reacted after a while. Is this the other party's purpose? Trapped her in the room? If she didn't have a fever, she should be able to analyze more clues now, but since she is sick, her head is a little numb, and her thinking is also slow. Muzi looked around the room, and found that this was not a living room, but a bedroom. One side of the bedroom is connected to the bathroom, and the sound of water from the shower can be heard. Who's in there? It doesn't matter, it will come out sooner or later anyway. Muzi slowly sat down next to the bed, then took out the gun from her waist, and pointed the gun at the door of the bathroom. Perhaps it was because of a fever, she didn't feel too scared when this happened, but her mind was dizzy but she couldn't rest, which made her feel irritable and wanted to curse. She really doesn't need to be afraid. If someone wants to hurt her, she has a gun in her hand. If someone wants to imprison her, Murong Cheng can locate and track her at any time. Therefore, she can sit here comfortably and wait to see what tricks the people behind the scenes are playing. Muzikyung waited for a while. The sound of water inside finally stopped, and a man with a towel around his waist came out. Muzi took a closer look and couldn't help being stunned. When the other party saw her, he was also stunned. "Miss Mu," Guyan looked at Muzi in surprise, and then he was even more shocked when he saw the gun in her hand. What are you going to do?" Muzi frowned. She already knew that this trap was not only intended to trap her, but also Shao. But she still held the gun firmly and did not intend to let go. Maybe Shao is an accomplice? Muzi still can't completely trust Guyan. "I was asked to come over and said you wanted to talk to me about something," she said. Shao nervously looked at the gun in Muzi's hand, and stood stiffly at the door of the bathroom, not daring to move, lest Muzi accidentally fire it. Hearing what Muzi said again at this time, he raised his head in astonishment. "I want to talk to you." "No." Muzi frowned and asked, "Then why are you here?" Guyan's face was a little embarrassed. He replied vaguely, "I'm out to play." After the last model's sudden death case, although Guyan was cleared of his charges, he also learned a lesson. He stayed at home for a long time and didn't go out to spend time or drink. Recently, he started to relax for a few days. A familiar friend said that he wanted to introduce him to a high-quality product and let him have a good time. That's why he came here. Unexpectedly, he met Mu Zi without seeing him.